Welcome to the Balderdash podcast. I am Joe, your host, and I thank you so much for listening, watching the Balderdash podcast. What does Balderdash mean? It means nonsense and senselessness. And I think there's a lot of nonsense and senselessness that happens in the world and on this show, and we talk about it. Now, guys, I cannot deal with all the craziness and nonsense in the world, so I have you to do that with me, and we go on this journey together. So make sure you go and like us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. I don't know why I'm not remembering everything. Or leave a comment at Gateway Pro Productions on Facebook, Instagram at the Balderdash _ 2020. That's also where you can find us on TikTok. And don't forget to check out our merch at T Public. But make sure you go and like and subscribe. Now, even though we have a plethora of topics we talk about, my goal is to entertain, teach, and try to figure out this craziness with you. So join me on that ride. And guys, there's a lot of craziness going on in the world. Actually, before we get into the topic here, let me tell y'all something. Okay. I did not know that when you get older, stuff was just going to start breaking down on you. Okay? And okay. I did know that. But I didn't know that it was going to happen so fast, right? Let me tell y'all a story. I went out Monday to go see my brother, right? My brother came to town. He was like, y'all want to go to dinner? I said, yes. We ain't seen y'all since y'all moved to Indy. Yes, let's go to dinner, right? So we go to dinner, right? We go to Olive Garden. We have a good-ass meal. It was reminiscent. Or it was like nostalgia for me because I had worked there and I hadn't worked there in a long time. And so I was trying to get all the food that I used to eat back in the day, right? It was a good time. We talked and we had just had a fantastic time. We wanted to tire out the boys. So we came up with this plan. We was like, hey, let's go to the playground after we eat, right? And so we did. We're sitting, we're talking, the boys are playing in the playground, and then we wanted to tire them out a little more, so we said, hey, let's go take a walk. So we're taking a walk, right? And for some reason, my brain was like, it's time to play with the boys, right? So my son, for some reason, don't like to keep his shoes on, right? So I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this motherfucker's shoes, okay? I took one of his shoes that he had taken off. I had put it behind my back, like in between my shirt, right? It was kind of snug there, so it wasn't falling. He's like, where's my shoe? Where's my shoe? And so I'm walking, as he's saying this, I'm walking ahead of everybody, and I'm walking kind of fast, right? And my partner says, I think Daddy has it. And so he looks at me, and he starts chasing me. At that point, y'all, I start doing a full-blown sprint.
Just run.
Yeah. I didn't need to do no full-blown sprint. The dude ain't that fast, okay? I got long legs. He got short legs. I didn't need to go a full-blown sprint, but I did, right? I sprinted, okay? I sprinted till we got to this, like, old Coliseum-looking thing, right? And I started hiding. Right? And they was running around trying to find me. They found me, and I finally took the shoe and threw it. And he got it, right? About that time, it was time to go. Okay, so we started walking towards the car. And again, I start jogging towards the car. I'm ahead of everybody. The boys aren't listening at this point. They're kind of being slow trying to go to the car because they don't want to leave, right? So then I see that the boys, while they're lollygagging, are having my brother Mason chase them, right? And so I was like, ooh, this would be a good time to kind of stalk them like an animal, like they're prey. Come up on them real slow and then attack. So that's what I did. I walked up on them real slow till I got real close. And then I and started tickling them and stuff like that. And my boys, they pretty big, they pretty big. And so as I'm tickling them, they're kicking and everything. I fall to the ground. We start wrestling on the ground while I'm tickling them. My second boy jumps up on my back, starts trying to defend his brother. I throw him to the ground, start tickling him and everything. And we had a good time, right? Perfect. We all hop in the car, we go home. I'm so exhausted from playing with them boys. I get home, I pass out. I pass out about 9:30. Now, mind you, I'm a person who usually gets about 5 to 6 hours of sleep because my body can't handle it. If I get more than that, I start having problems, right? So on top of running and wrestling with the boys and sleeping for how long I did, I think I slept for about 10 hours, right? I woke up with back pain, right? And now, this is usual for me. I knew I was like, damn, I slept too long. Now I got back pain, right? First day, I get through it. I'm like, man, this kind of hurt, a little bit. I popped some medicine. The second day I went to sleep on it, I woke up in worse back pain to the point that I almost called into work. And I was telling my partner about this, and he was like, you know what? Uh, that's serious. This got to be serious because you don't call off for nothing. You could be sick and you go in there with the mask and hand sanitizer on your hands, right, all the time. And I was like, yeah, it hurts, right? It was to that point where, like, if I was sitting down in a position, like if I was sitting down here with you guys, I would be fine. It was when I would get up to go to walk, I would have lower back pain, and it was excruciating. I was basically like, it was like a car. It's like one of those wind up cars back in the day, where the car would die, you have to get out and wind it up and stuff like that, right? And that's how it was for me. Like, I'd be sitting down, and you would have to kind of wind me up. And I wasn't fast going. I was slow going, trying to get my body going, right? And it was that bad, right? And I was thinking to myself, I'm only 29. I am only 29. I thought this stuff was supposed to happen in your 30s, right? I thought this was supposed to, like, 30, supposed to get a little bit of it. And then by the time you like 34 or something, that's when it's supposed to really start happening to you. And then by the time you're 40, you're so used to it and you've developed a regimen on how to fix it and stuff like that. That's how I thought stuff was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to hit me so fast and so hard. I'm 29. I'm not even 30 yet. Right? So now I got to make sure I don't wrestle with the boys and sleep late and sleep for a long amount of time before I I can't do that. Because if I do that, I'm going to have back pain. And it was bad. 2 days I had back pain. Usually it's, ooh, you slept too long. You have back pain today. Pop some medicine. Ooh, right? Go about your day. Go back to your sleep regimen. Everything fine the next day. No, 2 days. I was out. Did I still go to work? Yeah, because I got to make that money, right? But dang, it was bad. Like, at work, my job is not really physical, right? So I sit in a chair most of the day. But there are other things that you have to do. You have to get up and, like, walk guests to certain places. You have to make sure you mop and clean and stuff like that. Restock the pantry. Go up to take out the trash and stuff like that. So there is some physical things that happen with that job. It was just crazy with the back pain and stuff like that. So I want to know, how old are you and are you experiencing back pain? Are you 28, 29 experiencing back pain, right? Some of y'all might be wondering, Joe, why can you only sleep 5 to 6 hours? Well, that's because I have treated my body like crap over the years, right? Back in the day, I had like 5 jobs at one time. I would get up and do the garbage route, right, early in the morning. After the garbage route, I had my license restricted, so I had to hop on my bike and ride back home. I would go to the YMCA. After the YMCA, I had a job at church sometimes. If I wasn't doing church, I was doing landscaping. And then, after all those jobs, I would get home late, I would do photography. Like I would edit pictures, be trying to do something with Gateway Pro or something, and I would usually do that until about midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning, right? Then I would go to sleep. And I did that for a long time. I did it so long that now I've kind of got my body used to the 5 to 6 hours, right? And if I kind of get any more than that, it hurts my body. Now, naps are the exception, right? So, like, I can get 4 to 5 hours of sleep and then take a nap in the middle of the day, and I'm fine. But I don't think my body can sit or be in that position for that long, right? And people will be talking about, like, well, Joe, you know that the average person's supposed to get 8 hours of sleep. I know the average person's supposed to get 8 hours of sleep. But what am I supposed to do when my body can't do it? And I can't take a nap in the daytime. Like people ask me on the weekends, Joe, why you always falling asleep? I'm falling asleep because I had 4 to 5 hours of sleep all week, and now I'm getting my extra amount of sleep here on the weekend. That's what I'm doing, right? So you let me know, how are you 28, 29 experiencing back pain already, right? I know for me also too, it's one of those things where I had, like I said, I had a hard life type of a deal. I worked a lot of hard jobs. They were hard on my body. The garbage route, the electrician, um, landscaping. These jobs were hard on my body. I've worked hard jobs ever since I was 16. And then recently, I have taken on a lot more easier jobs on my body, right? So I think all that's catching up to me, right? So I'm trying to reverse all that. You know, it took me 10 years to get my body this way. Hopefully in another 10 years I can get it back to I'm sleeping 8 hours. My body ain't hurting all the time and stuff like that. So you let me know what's going on with you. Now, let's stop talking about that. Make sure that you guys comment and like. I want to hear what y'all doing, what y'all dealing with. Okay, are y'all old? Are y'all old? Are we getting old? Millennials, are we getting old? That's my question to you. So, my next topic here, I saw in an article, right? The article was talking about millennials not having children and how they were worried about millennials not having children, right? And so as I was reading this article, it was talking about how millennials are killing, they might be killing humanity by not having children and things like that. And I thought to myself, why are why aren't millennials having children? So I did a little bit of research, and that's what we're going to be talking about today on the Balderdash podcast. Why aren't millennials having children? So, my first reason why I think that Gen Z and millennials are not having children is because children are expensive. Kids are expensive, right? My two boys alone cost $28,000, right? I have never paid for a car. That's a lie. Okay? My first car was $1,500. My second car was $2,300 or $23,000, right? Then I got another car that was 24,000, but then they tacked on that rate with the other one. Okay, so I had about a loan of $32,000, right? And then I bought another car for 17, and my last car, actually, the Crown Vic was 3,000, and then this last car that I had was $19,000. So technically, I've had a loan larger than what I've paid for my kids, but I've never had, I never bought it out that way, right? So $28,000 is what it costs to have my kids, right? To have them. Okay, that's in the hospital and everything they got to do. Luckily, insurance paid for a lot of it, but if we didn't have insurance, we would be stuck with the bill for $28,000 for our two kids. Now, most people don't have two kids, right? They have more than two kids. So let's just say they're paying, you know, what was it? What is that? What is that? What is that? They paying $28,000 per two kids. That's crazy to me, right? That's crazy. Okay, so in my state of Indiana, according to Lending Tree, it costs $19,000 a year to raise one child.
After research, we found out the cost of living is more and is actually $21,681 a year according to a study in 2013. Now back to the show.
For my household, that is $38,000 a year to provide for my kids, right? That's just to provide for their necessities. They need clothes, they need shoes, they need food, school, diapers, and stuff like that. $38,000 for both of us, right? My bills run about $42,000 a year. Okay? So I got 38 technically for my kids and 42,000 for that I make or that my bills cost me, right? So with these numbers from Lending Tree and my household bills, I need about $80,000 a year to make ends meet, right? In our situation, we've been working for a while, and so we kind of gained experience in the workforce, right? So we've kind of found jobs that will give us more money, and we've gained experience in the workforce. So, when we go to a job and we say, hey, we want this type of money, I need this type of hours, they're like, okay, you got the experience type of a deal, right? So we good. But let's look at college students, okay? And the reason why I say let's look at college students because I looked up the prime child birthing. No, I looked up the time where where people have kids the most, and the age range was between 22 and 27. Okay, and about 22 to 27, that's college age, right? So let's look at a college kid, right? All right. So now we're gonna go through the cost here. So the cost of a student to go to a public college is $25,290. That's if you go to a public in-state college. Okay. Now for 4 years, that's 101. That's $101,160. Okay, that's what you're gonna be paying for you just to go get your associates. For an out-of-state college, it's $40,940 a year. That brings that out to $163,760 that you'll be paying for your associates. For a private college, it is $50,900, which that brings that to $203,000 a year. These stats are from Value Penguin, which are powered by Lending Tree. These stats that are found are from 2017 and 18, okay? And that's after the pandemic. Now, we talking about after the pandemic because we know prices probably rose, right, after the pandemic. So now that we know the stats for the college students, okay, and the different ranges for them, let's look at the earnings of a college student. Now, I was looking at part-time earning for students. So if you are a part-time student and you are making the most money, right? The average part-time college student makes about $45,000 a year. That's the top that they make, okay, on average. You've got in the 75th percentile, you make $83,000 a year. The average college student makes about $34,000 a year, and then if you're in the 25th percentile, you make about $30,000 a year, right? Okay, so let's say that the top earner, okay, part-time student makes $45,000 a year, and they go to a in-state public college, which is $25,000. This would leave them $19,710 left to spend on life, okay? But wait, this student has a child. The child costs $1,000 a year to provide for. Okay, which means that that student who earns the most, they are going to school, they are working as hard as they can, right? Making $45,000 a year and going to school, and they have a child. And the rest of the year, they are left with $710 for the rest of the year. I looked that up. That was about, I think I did the math. I think that was about $52 or $53 a month left, right? And here's the thing, y'all. We we're not even talking about bills, right? Yeah, we're not even talking about bills. If you are the top earner, you're making $45,000, and you decide to go to school, to the cheapest school. Now, I understand they got grants and things like that. They got that. But what if you don't know about that? Because somebody like me, going into having kids, we didn't think about any of this, right? We grew up in a Christian household, and your purpose was, as a man, my purpose was to go out, make money, provide for the family, right? And my partner's job was to have babies and take care of the house. That was the mindset that we had in that house. So I was out working long hours, barely home, trying to provide for the family. My partner was at home doing what they're supposed to be doing, cleaning and doing everything. Then another thing that was part of a married couple was you're supposed to have sex and have babies. You're supposed to have as many babies as the Lord would allow you to have. That's what you're supposed to do, right? And so we started doing that, right? Literally, we got married, and then 2 months, 3 months after we got married, my partners come telling me they're pregnant. Now we having our first kid, right? We didn't think it through. We didn't do no planning. We didn't do anything, right? And what if we went to college, man? What if we had went to college, right? I was making about 40 something a year, right? Actually, I was making more than that because I had multiple jobs. But I was making about 40. Let's just say I was making about 45. And then we decided to go to college. It's $25,000 a year, right? And then we have our kid, 19. Left with $710 a year, $53 a month to provide, right? Okay? So, and then another thing too with us in our family was when we tried to apply for assistance and things like that, we made too much money, right? We are still in that crevice or whatever in the government where we make we make too much money to apply for any benefits or anything, but we don't make enough money to get some of that pressure released off of us, right? So that's where we're in limbo right now, right? So like we want to get a discount on daycare, right? We couldn't do that because we made too much money. Right now, for we're sending our kids to school, and there's a lunch program, and you can get a discounted lunch program, and we don't qualify for that because we make too much money. Now, I'm not going to say that us making too much money is a bad thing, but it's a bad thing when you make the money that you make and you got a budget, okay? You have to budget so hard. Let me tell you something. When that check hits, okay, I am looking at that bank account and I'm going through, okay, this bill came out, that bill came out, that bill came out, that bill came out. Okay, we still got this bill and this bill. I'm going to calculate everything. Okay, we should have this much money for gas, this much money for groceries, and this much money for this, and this much money for playtime, okay? Do not go over that. If you go over that, we are going under, okay? Type of a deal. And we're going to be under until the next paycheck hit, right? We shouldn't have to do that, right? Okay? So that's one of the reasons why people are not having kids, or why I think millennials and Gen Z are not having kids, because kids are expensive, right? They're expensive. Between being part time, going to school, and then raising your child, it is a lot of money. And a lot of us aren't even getting that $45,000 because nobody wants to hire a kid right out of college, right? Here's the problem that I dealt with. When I was college age, people thought he has no experience in anything. He's a young kid who probably doesn't want to work, so we're not going to hire him. Then they looked at my resume and they were like, okay, let's hire this guy, right? But I dealt with that for a long time. Then I went on and I have so much experience. Nobody wants to hire me because I have too much experience right now. I can't get a job at freaking McDonald's probably because they would say, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, Joe, you have too much experience. You have too much experience. So then I'm thinking to myself, well, should I just wait it to start working until I was 18? Should I still waited to work until I was 16? Because for the longest time, I thought that was a good thing. I started working at 12. I started working at 12. I thought it was a good thing. I thought the job market was just going to be like, hey, this kid been working for a long time. Yes, whatever you want to do. You want to be a pilot? Let's put you through pilot school. We gonna do it for you. You know? And it's crazy the way the world, the way the world used to be, right? They tell you you can be whatever you want to be. And you be like, okay, I want to do this. And they be like, okay, these are the steps that you have to do in order to become what you want to be. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do these steps. I'm going to do these steps. And then you do the steps. And then you finally get to that point where you are trying to get a job or something. And they're like, no. And you're like, well, I did everything that everybody said, I went to college. I got my high school diploma. I was in Boy Scouts and I became an Eagle Scout. How come y'all won't let me? You have too much experience. God dang. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next part. Reason number 2. Kids are a big responsibility. Most people or most couples that want to have children are between the ages of 22 and 27. And kids are a huge responsibility to have. Like, you have to look after these human beings 24/7, okay? All right? And also, like I said, they are human beings who we have to shape mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And we have to keep them alive in all those ways. And if you don't believe me, listen, let me tell you something. Kids are crazy, okay? I got so many stories about my kids. But one of the things that we are dealing with right now is that we have to shut everything off in the house, right? Because if you don't shut off everything in the house, my kids will get up in the middle of the night while you are sleeping and they will go downstairs and they will go into the cabinet and they will grab them a snack and then you will wake up to go to the bathroom and see the light flickering off and on downstairs. And you're like, what the hell is going on? So then what you do is you grab your little weapon and you're slowly going downstairs. And you're getting ready to knock the fuck out somebody because you think somebody in your house getting ready to steal your stuff. You gotta protect your kids. You gotta protect your partner, right? So you going downstairs and you looking around and you see your 2 boys sitting on the couch, just chill. Just chill. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be, type of a deal. On the couch eating a bag of chips, watching TV, playing the Switch, playing the PlayStation, right? And I'm thinking to myself, listen, nobody told me about this. Nobody told me about this. Nobody told me that when you get up to go to the bathroom at midnight, that you gonna have your goddamn kids sitting on the couch eating your food, watching your TV at midnight when they supposed to be sleeping. You supposed to be asleep. Sleep is supposed to be calm. You ain't supposed to be worried about nothing when you sleep. That's just what's supposed to happen. Okay? Nobody told me about this when it happened to kids. So kids are a big responsibility, right? You gotta make sure that you are making sure to get to bed. And everything that you do as a parent, it's people look at you in a certain way, right? Like, if my kid wakes up, goes downstairs, eating potato chips, watching TV at midnight, and let's just say he does that for an hour, right? He does that for an hour. I go downstairs and I say, hey, what are you doing? Get your butt upstairs. They go back to bed, right? They wake up in the morning. He goes to school. He's tired in the middle of the day. People look at him and say, "Hey, Mr. Murray, why are you? Why is your son tired? Why he tired?" Then I feel bad because I'm like, listen, I was sleeping, and then like it seemed like you're an irresponsible parent, right? When you not, you doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? I was sleeping, and he went downstairs and got some potato chips, like Doritos, and my other son had like the Ruffles, right? And then since they so smart, they so smart, right? They turn on the PlayStation, sign into my account. He also got the Switch, which is up on this high thing with the PlayStation, and he got it for his brother. And so his brother was playing the Switch, and he was playing the PlayStation, and it was doing this at midnight. Where were you, Mr. Murray? I was asleep. It was midnight, type of deal, right? And so there's just a lot of things that we go through as parents that we have to explain. We got to take care of these people, right? And a lot of stuff don't make sense. Like it's like one of those things where, maybe you have a partner that bruises easily, right? And then they fall, right? And then they go to work and they say, "Hi, Will, why you got these bruises?" And you be like, "I fell." It don't sound right. It might be the truth, but it don't sound right. And that's the thing that you deal with as a parent. Like you're responsible for these kids, and a lot of the stuff that come out your mouth when you explaining it to people don't sound right. It's the truth, but it just don't sound right. Like it don't sound right that my kids wake up in the middle of the night without my supervision and they go down there and they go get chips and stuff. That's out of my hands. I got up and did the responsible thing, put them suckers back to bed. But dang, that's just some of the things people don't tell you about having kids, right? Right? My mama used to say, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of nobody else. And that's one of the things that we need to understand. Kids are a big responsibility, and some people are not ready to have children, right? I think it's crazy that we go out into this world and that I have to have a license to go fishing, right? I have to have a fishing license, right? I have to have a license for the most mundane things. But to bring an actual human into the world, I do not have to have a license for. I just have to have the parts for it, right? That's all I have to have. If I have a penis and somebody that I get with has a vagina and I just come inside of them, bam, there it is. We have a kid. For the next 18 to some odd years, you have responsibility. And that goes out to everybody. Now, I don't want the government to sit here and give licenses out to people and tell them when they can and cannot have kids. But I'm just saying that it's just crazy to me that I have to go in to the wherever, go get a fishing license so that I can go out into the woods to a lake by myself and cast a fishing rod out into the water and catch a fish so that I can eat, or for recreation. I have to have that. But I don't need nothing for a kid. Like literally, got with my partner. We did the do. 9 months later, we have a kid, right? The doctors didn't ask us if we were mentally sane. They didn't ask us no questions. They were just like, okay, we're gonna do all these tests on the kid, make sure he's all good. Bam, he's all good. You the daddy, sign here. You the mama, sign here. Okay, let's see. We got another person having birth, so get the hell out of here. And send us home with a baby, with this creature, right? The creature was like, when did we leave the hospital? We left the hospital like 2 days. 2 days. We got a baby. And people might say, well, Joe, everybody does this. Everybody has kids. This is just something that's normal that happens. We've been having kids since the beginning of time. Yeah, but it's crazy to me, right? We are, which I don't think a lot of parents or people understand, is that it is a huge responsibility. You are mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally in charge of this person. And everything that you do as a parent can either turn them out to be a productive member of society, or it could fuck them up forever, right? Like, go look at people like Jeffrey Dahmer, right? Ted Bundy. When you look at these, when you listen to those stories and things like that, they don't say, one of the first things they go to is, how was his childhood? And they look at the parents and they say, Mr. and Mrs. Bundy, Mr. and Mrs. Dahmer, how did you raise him? Excuse me. How did you raise him? What were you guys doing to make him become the way that he became, right? That's what they look at. They're even going through now that if a like person who does a mass shooting, right? If they go in, they do a mass shooting and they kill themselves, they are now trying to make it like put that responsibility on the parents. Like, okay, now you should serve time because you raised this child who did this thing, type of a deal, right? And that's what I'm saying. Kids are a huge responsibility, not just financially, but like I said, emotionally, spiritually, physically. You have to do all these things to make sure that they are right in the head, right? Because a lot of us, here's another reason, I didn't write this down, but a lot of us, millennials and Gen Z people, we were raised by a lot of parents who weren't ready to have kids, right? We were raised by a lot of people who weren't ready to have kids. Like, there were so many parents of millennials and Gen Zers who are one of two things happen. You either are not talking to your parents, right? You're either not talking to your parents because of everything you went through as a kid and it kind of scarred you as a kid, or you have the parents apologizing to the kids, right? I've heard that from many people. Like, yeah, my parents they apologized to me, right? Because they said, hey, raising you was really really hard, and I raised you the best way I can. Even though that might not have been the best way to raise you, that was just the best way that I could. And I'm sorry for any trauma or anything that's really messed with you, right? Like, that's how big of a responsibility it is, right? You as a parent thinking you're doing the best you can, right? And then it ends up not being the best, right? To a point that it might scar your kids or traumatize your kids, right? To a point that you have to go up to them and say, I'm sorry. That's how big of a responsibility it is. And that's why it doesn't make sense to me that we're just able to go out and have kids, right? There are people who are ready for kids, right? There are people in my partner's family who I'm like, y'all love kids. You can have as many kids as you want because you are financially stable. You want kids, you love kids, right? Type of a deal. Then there's other people that I see in life. I'm like, why are you having kids? You can't take care of yourself, right? And now you're bringing kids in the world. And not only are you bringing one or two kids, you are bringing all these other kids in the world. This brings me to, we get ready to end, but this makes me think about a girl I used to work with at the YMCA. Her name was Sophia, and we were talking about kids, right? And we were talking about people having kids. And I remember Sophia, I'm laughing because it's all coming back to me, and she was right. But we were talking about, it's like, yeah, man, I want kids, man. And I want to just have a bunch of kids, man. I'm talking like 5 and 6 and 7 kids. And she was just like, kids are expensive, right? Sophia's younger than me. Sophia was brilliant. She was a brilliant person. Like, she was super smart, right? And I think Sophia might have been like 16, 17, right? And this is when I was like, what was that? Like 18, 19, right? And we was working at the YMCA. And we was having this discussion because when you at the front desk, you really ain't got nothing to do but talk to each other. So we sitting there and we having this discussion. And she's like, kids are expensive, kids are a big responsibility. And I was like, fuck everything you saying because I want kids. I want kids. I think I'm gonna be a good daddy. I'm gonna be a good daddy. I want all the kids in the world. And come to find out, she was right. Like she was just talking about the financial part of it, right? She didn't really get into the responsibility of, you know, the responsibility of having kids, right? So, all that said, that leads me to my next and last point, right? Again, people aren't ready. And the people that know they are not ready, I respect them so much, right? I respect the fact that they know that they're not ready as a person to raise kids. Now, these people, a lot of them aren't like, I'm not opposed to kids. I just know that I'm not ready for kids now in my life, right? Because they are going through college, right? They might have just got married and they want to spend time with their significant other. I didn't get that, you know? I think I might have got 12 months of time with my significant other at being married, right? We were together for I think maybe like a year and a half or so, so we got a lot of time that way. But we we didn't get that much marital time together, right? Just being a married couple. I think we had about 12 months, and 9 of those 12 months, my partner was pregnant, right? And I think that's super important that you really need to figure yourself out, and then figure out how you work as a couple in order to raise kids. Because if you don't know who you are as a couple, you don't know who you are as a person, it's going to be harder to raise kids. And that's what me and my partner are going through. We didn't know who we were as people, right? We're still learning who we are as people, right? But I would have rather have had my kids at this point in my life where I kind of have more of a sense of who I am, right? And how I think and what I believe type of a deal, right? That's what I would have loved to have. I would have loved to spend a lot more time with my partner, right? And kind of develop and figure out who they are and how they are as a person, right? Um, and just kind of gel and then figure out, okay, this is what we want. We want kids. Let's figure out how we're going to do this, right? Because I feel like so many people are just getting married and throwing out kids and really not coming up with a plan, a financial plan, right? A emotional plan. Like, hey, how did your parents raise you, right? Okay, you probably didn't like that, right? So let's not do that. How'd your parents raise you? Oh, you didn't like that. Let's not do that with our kids. Let's figure out a plan in order to raise our kids, right? Family planning, right? I don't know why we don't have certain things in the works for parents, right? I was talking to people about this. Like family planning, right? We need to do a lot more family planning, okay? And I'm talking about from you and your spouse to the doctor, right? The doctor needs to be like, okay, so this is what's going to happen. Actually, we need to even go before that. We need to talk to people about family planning. Like, hey, how do we need to provide for a child financially? What are some things that you went through as a parent that you did not like or frustrated you as a parent, right? Have legitimate stories about certain stuff about being a parent so people can get a heads up and they know what's going on. And then once you get pregnant, you have the doctor. What's your plan? This is our plan here, 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 here. Then, but see, with the doctors and stuff, it's just like, okay, so we're going to be with you and we're going to provide you with things and material up to the birth, okay? And then after that, you got to figure out stuff like that. We didn't know how to go on WIC. We didn't know about all these programs that help us. We just found out that there was like the government, our kids can get on the government insurance, right? So a lot of their dental and medical needs, it's all free, right? And we just pay for it through taxes and stuff like that. We didn't know none of that, right? And I wish we did because, we need to do a lot more family planning with like doctors and stuff. Like doctors, y'all do this every fucking day. You should be able to like, okay, so there's this place that you can go and this will be able to help you with this, this, and this, and this, and this. What are your financial needs? Oh, you guys don't look like you're financially stable. So here are some places that you can go that will help you with your child that you just brought into the world, right? So I understand the people who aren't ready to have kids. I actually respect them, right? Because I understand, hey, you know yourself enough to know that I don't want to have children, right? You you know yourself enough to know I am not ready for children yet, right? And it's just crazy. I think we as people need to have a lot more responsibility. It's one of those things that my neighbor told me once. You know, he told me this as a grown man, but he said, a stiff dick has no conscience. And for the longest time, it made me laugh. But as I get older, I understand it more. He said, a stiff dick has no conscience. In the moment, it's one of those things where you're just like, I'm just going to fulfill all my needs right now because it feels so good and they feel so good and they think I feel good. And so what we're going to do now is we just going to do everything. We just going to do everything. We're going to worry about the repercussions later. Right? So, why do I think kids are, why do I think millennials and Gen Z people aren't having kids? I think it's because people think or kids are expensive, right? I think kids are a big responsibility, and I think people aren't ready to. With our past a lot of our past that we've had, people just aren't ready. So, can we can we can we really blame them for that? If you want millennials and Gen Zers to have kids, make it easier for them to live, right? The next episode that we're going to be talking about is, or one of the topics we're going to be talking about is like luxuries. What used to be the norm back in the day, and now are luxuries, right? Okay, and um, that's what we're going to be talking about. And so, a lot of things back in the day that were considered normal, they're luxuries now to us. So how about we get back to that? Making it easier for millennials and Gen Zers to live. Like, bring a lot of stuff back. Make costs lower, right? Gas lower. Maybe if a lot of things were a lot more affordable, we would think about having kids. Back in the day, that was no problem, right? You would just pop out as many kids as you had, and then Grandpa, even though he had a family here and a family there and a family there, Grandpa was working his one job and was able to buy a house, right? Buy a house for his main family and still have enough money to go out drinking every single day and go pay his other baby mamas enough to keep them quiet about their kids until Grandpa died, and then he was just like, who was all these motherfucking people around here? And you say, well, that's Grandpa's other family. How does Grandpa have 5 other kids around? Or not 5 other kids, 5 other families around with his one job? That's what we need to get back to. Not get okay. Listen, people. Let me tell. Okay, some of y'all stupid and y'all gonna misconstrue what I just said. We don't need to get back to Grandpa having 5 families. Okay, we need to get back to people life being more affordable. Okay, we need to get back to life like back then. Okay, so that we can so things can be just more affordable. Okay. That's what we need. If millennials and Gen Z people felt comfortable in their spending, they would probably have more kids, right? If they felt comfortable about their past, they would probably have more kids. That's why they're going to go get therapy right now, right? If kids, I can't say anything about the kids' responsibility because that's just a thing, right? I would say the best way I would say is have one kid, wait 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, and then have another kid so that you can kind of say, okay, here we go. We figured out this kid here. Now, this kid's going to be a little bit different, but we're going to take the main meat and potatoes of it, and we are going to try to do the same thing and then just kind of adjust along the way. But no, there are people that are having kids after kids after kids. Like, it just boggles my mind. Well, I promise we're going to end here, but stuff just keeps popping in my head. It just boggles my mind when you see, like, a family, right? They have like a 2-year-old, right? And then they will have a baby that they carrying, okay? And you're like, Joe, that's not bad. You know, you got a 2-year-old and you got a baby you carrying. I ain't done yet. And then they're pregnant with. I'm like, what? Dude, stop, stop, stop having relations. Stop fucking. Stop it, lady. Say no. Say no, lady. You got 3 babies right now, okay? And one of them look fresh. One look fresh out the womb, and you already big bellied. Listen, I ain't trying to sit here and tell people how to live. I'm just saying we as people need to be more responsible because having kids is a crazy thing, right? It's a crazy thing in this world. So make sure you tell me what you think about that right now. And so, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I just want to come on here real quick and talk a little bit more here because I just love talking and stuff like that But I don't know if you noticed, but I don't have the green screen anymore. The green screen just looked tacky to me, right? And I was watching a lot of my favorite YouTubers, and if you look at their background, it's either blurred out or they have stuff on their back walls that means something to them, right? And this is a quilt that my partner made for me a long time ago. As you can see, I've worked a lot of jobs, like right here. This is the landscaping company I used to work for, right? What else? Is there another work shirt? The YMCA. I used to work for the YMCA. T&G is another one up here up top. But this is a quilt of all the shirts that I've gathered over the years from things that are so important to me, right? Like I got the Cardinals there, right? The Cardinals, love the freaking Cardinals. They are my baseball team. This little suit thing here, that's a show that I did. It was from the Tollies 80s prom, right? Love that shirt, man. I don't know why I did that to that shirt, but I love that shirt. I love that show. And this is super important to me because I'm super nostalgic if you haven't figured out, right? And these shirts, they help me reminisce about certain things. Like that Spider-Man shirt right there, that was the very first Spider-Man shirt that I ever bought, right? It was one of those sport athletic shirts, right? And I bought that, and it was super tight on me. It really made my muscles look big and stuff like that, right? But I really liked this, and so I was like, I'm going to put this up, and I'm just going to have this as my background because that's what this is all about, right? This is my show, my personality, right? I want to share with you things that I love, and this is one of the things that I love. It's one of the best things that I love, right? I was going to have, like, there's a Marvel one that I was going to do, but I thought this was a little bit better. I think this shirt here, I'm going to start wearing. I think this might be, like, my uniform, hopefully, if it's always washed for the show, because I love this shirt. This was one of those shirts that I saw at what was it? Ross Dress for Less, right? And I was just like, this is a loud shirt, and it talks about comic books, right? And I'm not a huge comic book person, but I dabbled in it, right? I was really into the Archie comic books, right? My mom went to Goodwill and got me this Archie comic book, right? And it's like volume 15 of the Archie Digest, right? And I read that thing over and over and over and over again. And then one day we went to the Salvation Army and somebody got rid of all their Archie books, right? And I bought every single one of them, right? And I read every single comic in there. I still have those comics to this day, right? And so I was like, comics really mean a lot to me because they got me through my teenage years. And this is just a loud shirt. And so I have this shirt, right? And this shirt, it's one of those shirts that it's unique, right? A lot of people don't have this shirt. It's that freaking Ross Dress for Less. And nobody likes this shirt because they did like it. I would see more people around town with it. But nobody really likes this shirt. And so I think I'm one of the only people who has a shirt like this, right? And I like it. It's very flamboyant. Every time I wear it out, people are always they know who the fuck I am, right? They like, yeah, that's the comic book guy, right? And I like doing stuff like that, right? I'm that type of dude who likes to wear weird clothing, right? Like dashikis. I'm getting more in tune with my African roots, right? And so I thought in order to get more in to dive deep into that, I want to start wearing African clothing, right? And so I bought a couple of dashikis, right? I have 3, and now I go out to the bar and I'll just throw them on randomly because you can wear them casually or you can wear them like formally, right? And so they look good and they look good on me. And so I wear them out to the bars and stuff like that. And I had one guy, I walked into the bar, he said, "There he is, my African prince." And I started dying laughing because I ain't seen this dude in like 3 months. I ain't been out to the bar in 3 months. And he's sitting there saying, "There he is, my African prince." And I was like, dude, you came up with that name a long time ago, like a year ago. And I can't believe you're still calling me that, right? It's just funny. I'm a unique person who likes what he likes. I like weird stuff. Like, who would have thought, right? I didn't think about this. This is my partner because they know how nostalgic I am. Who would have thought to take t-shirts, because I had a lot, as you can tell, I had a lot of freaking t-shirts. Who would have thought to take t-shirts and put them into a quilt because they know that the person they're with is so freaking nostalgic, right? I love looking at this, man. The Cabaret. Cabaret was, there's a shirt here for Cabaret. That was the very first show that I did at the Muni, right? I wasn't in it, but I was working at the YMCA, and the main character, or one of the main characters, he played MC in the show Cabaret. And he would talk to us, that person would talk to my boy Billy and I. Right, he would come in. He was like, "Oh, I want to get a membership because I got to get abs for this show and stuff like that." And so we started talking to him. Next thing you know, he came up to us and said, "Hey, we need guys to do stage crew for the show. Would you guys like to do that?" We said, "Yeah." So we went in, we did it, and that was my first show out at the Muni. It was great. It was wonderful. I love that. I mean, I'm just looking at these shirts now because I haven't looked at them in a long time. Right, my Gateway Pro. I got it. When I was big into getting uniforms and stuff, Gateway Pro shirt, man. It's just wonderful to sit down and think about that. So, are you nostalgic like me? If you're a 90s kid, more than likely you are, because I can tell by a lot of the ads and things that they do. Like, I was just watching the video, and it was talking about the things we experienced through school, like the square pizzas, like the Bosco sticks, or you got the cinnamon toast sticks, right? Those are certain things you had at school. It was just reminiscing. I think my generation is very nostalgic, right? And we like to think about the past a lot, like other generations do. But I don't know. I think we just cherish things a lot more. Like, I talk to people about having a I talk to people about having like a memory box, and people are like, "Yeah, I got one too." I'm like, "Oh, I I thought I was the only person that had a memory box." I just like certain moments and certain things, right? Like, we went to go see Chad Daniels a couple years ago, right? And I took those tickets from Chad Daniels and I put them in my memory box, right? One of the very first movies that I saw after COVID was No Way Home, right? And I took those tickets, one, because it was the first movie that I saw, but two, it was this huge Spider-Man movie. And I took those tickets and I put them in my memory box. And I started doing that in 2014 because I remember 2014 was the worst year for Billy and I because I had just left home. It had been a year since I left home. Billy was just going out on his own, right? And we both didn't have a really good relationship with our mothers, right? And so I remember him and I really connected on that Mother's Day of 2014, right? And so we was like, hey man, whenever we're feeling sad or whenever we're feeling down, or hell, whenever we're just feeling bored, let's go see a movie, right? And Billy and I, we saw a lot of movies that year. We were depressed, we were sad, and we were bored as fuck. And we saw a lot of movies that year. And every single ticket that I took, or that we got, I put it in my memory box. And I can go back and look at those ticket stubs and just reminisce about that. That's one of the big reasons why I do this show, right? I do this show for you guys, to entertain you guys, right? But I also do it for me, right? One, it's an outlet for me to express myself about things that I think about and kind of talk and connect with you. But then also, too, I can't wait till I get older, right? And I have nothing to do. I want to be retired, and I want to be mowing lawns, or I want to be going to a baseball game. Like, I want to be saying, hey, I'm traveling around, I'm going to watch the Cardinals every game they go to. That means when they travel, I'm traveling. And while I'm traveling, I want to be listening to The Joke Show. Why? Because right now, this moment right now, I'm capturing it and talking about something that's happening in my life, right? and I'm capturing it. And forever, when I post this episode, it will forever be locked in time and locked on the internet there. And I think that just makes me so happy that I will be able to go back and listen to these episodes, forget about what was going on in my life, but kind of having like a what's the word, jump start, right, in my brain, like, oh yeah, I do remember that, because I already do it, man. I go back and listen to some of like our very first episodes, and I'd be like, yeah, I do remember that. I can't believe that I forgot that happened in my life. It starts putting puzzle pieces together. So yes, nostalgia. I'm a very nostalgic person. If my favorite YouTuber wasn't called the Nostalgia Critic, I would probably name my podcast Nostalgia something, Nostalgia Joe or something like that. But hey, I want to thank you guys so much for listening to the show. I want to thank you so much for watching this show. Right. Again, I said this is my outlet. This is my passion. I love doing this. And I'm glad you guys take the time out to listen or watch. So please let me know that you are there and that you are watching. I can see the views. I know there's people watching. I know there's people listening. But I want to hear from you. So make sure you go and comment on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music, right? So we can have a conversation. What do you think about these issues? Am I crazy for being nostalgic, right? Am I too young to be getting back pain? Am I crazy to think that financially it's crazy to have kids and kids are too much of a responsibility? Am I crazy? I want to hear from you. What do you think about that, right? Make sure you go to Gateway Pro Productions on Facebook, the Balderdash _20 on Instagram and TikTok, and don't forget to check out our merch on tpublics.com/GWP. As of right now, guys, I'm headed out, and I want to make sure that you guys go out and spread love and peace in the world, okay? And especially to parents, right? Because like we said, kids are financially and emotionally and spiritually, and they're a big responsibility. It's just a big responsibility, so give them a little grace. Go out there and show them a little peace. Babysit their kids for an hour or so. Go talk to them, talk to them about life and stuff. They're really going to enjoy that, because I feel like so many of us parents, we get so wrapped up in trying to provide for the family, the kids, and we get so wrapped up in our jobs and stuff like that, that we don't really reach out to certain people. So reach out to them. And as always, go out and spread love and joy and peace out in the world, because we need it right now. So I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for listening to and watching the Balderdash podcast. I will see you guys next week. Thank you for listening.